What's up, y'all? So I just got a question for you. Have you ever looked at your ministry calendar and you've been like, wow, we just have so much going on that our ministry calendar literally looks like an overgrown bush that is just growing wildly out of control? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's never happened to you. But from time to time, you look at your ministry calendar and it's just like, wow, there are so many programs every single day, before church, during church, after church, the day after church, and each one of these programs has a ministry leader, and this ministry leader wants time and attention and resources. They want their own budget, they want their own day, and they all want their own announcements. I mean, oh my goodness, the announcement list is just so long. It's literally like the song that never ends. It just goes on and on and on, and you literally kill the church with announcements. I mean, I don't know, maybe you've never experienced it before, but so many churches have so many ministries going on that I just felt compelled that in today's episode, we're gonna deal with the one thing that every senior leader wishes they could do, and the one thing, if we're honest with ourselves, that the majority of senior leaders are deathly afraid of doing, and that's what I call ministry pruning. Take out the shears and let's go. Hey guys, Seth here from Bridge Solutions, and today I will be your strategy navigator, helping you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and I want to welcome you to this strategy session. Now on this channel, we discuss proven church growth strategies that'll help your church or your organization go to the next level. So if you're new here, I would love for you to consider subscribing. Now in today's episode, I want to take time to really address this idea of ministry pruning. I was recently listening to a podcast and they were talking about this idea of ministry pruning. I thought to myself, wow, it's so true that so many churches never really take time to prune their ministries, and yet it is such a biblical concept. In fact, Isaiah chapter 5 and verse 6 describes what your church will look like if it's not pruned. It says, I will make it a wild place where the vines are not pruned and the ground is not hoed, and a place overgrown with briars and thorns. In a real sense, when you don't prune your ministries, inevitably what will happen is that your ministries will be all over the place. They'll be pulling the church in various directions, and as a result, the vision of the church will creep, the mission of the church will creep, rather than allowing your vision to determine what you do and you don't do. Because you have all these various ministries, the vision is going to naturally have to expand to somehow try to encompass all of these ministries, and as a result, the vision will go way off course. In addition to that, underperforming staff and leaders and volunteers will be left in positions, and the overall health and well-being of the congregation will be affected. Now, pruning is essentially not only being willing to end a ministry, but more so being willing to scale back a ministry for the benefit of the whole congregation. I mean, it's a biblical concept. John in chapter 5, Jesus says, every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. So the purpose of ministry pruning is not just to end ministry, but the purpose is so that you can actually get more fruit out of that ministry. Henry Longfellow, a great American poet, said it like this: great is the art of beginning, but greater is the art of ending. And that's essentially what pruning is. Pruning is when you intentionally sit down and you say, okay, what ministries are working? What ministries are not working? What ministries are actually helping us move the needle and accomplish our vision where we're headed? If you have unhealthy ministry programs, then those branches just need to be taken away. But if you have healthy ministry programs that are actually helping you move the needle and accomplish the vision of the church, well, then those programs need to be pruned, scaled back, so you can add more resources to them so they can bear more fruit. That's the essence of ministry pruning. Now, what I've come to learn throughout my ministry is that most ministry leaders don't just stumble into this ministry pruning mentality or this ministry assessment. In fact, we would rather avoid this altogether. And yet, if you want your ministry and your church to be healthy, you have to intentionally engage in ministry pruning. Now, I recognize that there are many churches and church leaders out there that will try to justify the existence of a ministry because someone is being blessed. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to argue against that one person or that handful of people who are being blessed by your ministry. What I'm asking you to consider is is the current use of your resources the best use of your resources? You see, whenever you engage in a ministry, you have to consider not just the financial resources, but the people resources, the time resources, volunteer resources, communication, marketing resources. All of these elements go in to you having a successful ministry. And so the question that I'm asking is the current use of your resources the best use of your resources? Essentially asking the question, are you being a good steward of that which God has committed into your trust? And that's why it's just simply unrealistic for anyone to argue that because I started a ministry, that ministry will last until the coming of the Lord. That's just unrealistic. The church will last until the coming of the Lord, but that doesn't mean your ministry program will last until the coming of the Lord. Your ministry program may just be serving a specific season, a specific time period. And as leaders, you must be very keen and aware on the season and on the life cycle of that ministry to know, okay, is it time to take this ministry and put it on the shelf? Is it time to scale this ministry? Is it time to prune this ministry? Ecclesiastes really says this best in chapter 3. It's a time for everything, a season for everything. Everything under the sun has a time and a season. There's a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build. So as ministry leaders, we must constantly be asking ourselves the question, is it time to build into this ministry, or is it time to scale back this ministry? Is it time to kill this ministry, or is it time to breathe new life into this ministry? Now, when it comes to pruning, there are 3 or 4 areas that you should consider pruning. Number 1, you should always consider pruning the vision of the church. Every now and again, you need to stop. Every 6 to 9 months, 12 months, you need to stop and say, okay, how are we with our vision? Should we tweak some things, change some things, scale some things, lean into some things? And your vision must periodically be pruned. The second and most obvious thing is that your ministry programs must be pruned. As a ministry leader, you must constantly remind yourself that this ministry is the means to an end, not the end itself. And so as long as it's serving the ends, then okay, yes, we'll keep it, we'll scale it, we'll pour into it. But you always have to have a critical eye. Never wear the cloak of the ministry that you started or the ministry program that you inherited too tightly, because that ministry program does have a shelf life. It will not last forever. And the third thing, which may be less obvious, is that ministry volunteers and leaders need to be pruned. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting you come and you start cutting away at your ministry leaders or your volunteers, and this is reason to fire everyone. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you have to understand who your leaders are and the resources that they need to succeed in their ministry. But at the same time, you must recognize that not every ministry leader that's currently with you is going to go with you to the next level. So you have to be aware of, okay, who serves what purpose and for what season and what time do they serve? Now, I want you to keep in mind that the purpose of ministry pruning is solely to bear more fruit. You're not just trying to cut things because you are Edward Scissorhands and you're just going in there chopping up things. No, that's not the purpose. And you're not trying to cut things because you don't like what they're doing or you don't like the ministry leader. No, you are critically looking at your ministry and you're saying, okay, how can we position this ministry to bear more fruit? It has promise, it's doing a great job, but if we strategically cut a few things, maybe that will allow us to filter more resources and nutrients into these other veins of this ministry so that it can produce more fruit. That is always the goal. So a critical question that you could ask yourself is, every 12 months, I would suggest, sit down with your core leadership team. And this is what I would say. Okay, let's look at our ministries. Let's write them all out from A to Z. Let's list every single ministry and every single program that we have. And then ask yourself this question. What do we need to start? What do we need to stop? And what do we need to continue? Very simple, 3 questions that will get you a lot of mileage. What do we need to start? What do we need to stop? And what do we need to continue? Something that I've discovered through just studying churches and being a pastor for a number of years is that the only way that your church is going to go to the next level is if you embrace this concept of ministry pruning. You can't keep every ministry with you along the way. It's just not realistic. It's not even biblical. God doesn't do that in our lives, and He doesn't expect us to do that for the church. We have to prune the ministries as we go along. It's not personal, and we don't do it because we have a vendetta against someone or we don't like someone, we're doing it because we really want the ministry of the church to be more fruitful. The killer resource of the day that I really want to give you is a book entitled Necessary Endings by Henry Cloud. I'll put a link down below in the show notes. Check it out. It'll really help you walk through the ministry pruning process if that's something you feel God has called you to do right now in this season of your ministry. Listen, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please let me know. You can drop a comment down below, or you can shoot me an email. You can visit my website, SethYelorda.com. I would love to hear from you. Or maybe you're in a position at your church right now where you need some help. You need an outside person to come in and give you a fresh set of eyes. I would love to be that person to help serve your church and help you all go to the next level. Have a wonderful day. Peace.